Rejection sucks, and it could really hurt. But what if you could make it work for you? You know that feeling, right? You get vulnerable, you put yourself out there, whether it's for a job interview, an audition, going on a date, or even meeting a new friend. You try your best, and then you get nothing. Or you get, sorry, we've decided to go in a different direction. Or maybe you just get ghosted. Or you see that someone else got the opportunity that you wanted. And then suddenly this wave hits you. It feels personal. It's like a confirmation of every insecurity you've ever had. Am I just not good enough? But what if rejection isn't actually what you think it is? What if the reason it feels so painful has less to do with your worth and more to do with how our brains are wired? And what if, once you understand it, you can handle rejection in a way that actually makes you stronger? I'm an actor and I've gotten hundreds of auditions in my life, most of which I didn't book. If I took those all as a personal rejection, I would have lost my freaking mind. So how have I kept doing this for almost 10 years now? Well, let's talk about why rejection is so painful in the first place, because understanding this changed the way I handle rejection forever. And by the end of this video, you'll see how it can actually work for you. And once you know how to harness it, you won't have to fear it. Rejection can trigger the same centers in our brain as actual physical pain. One of the reasons is that prehistorically, we as humans needed social acceptance for survival. Power in numbers, right? So rejection could literally mean life or death. That's not necessarily how society is nowadays, but our brains are still wired that way. So we can go into fight or flight mode even if we're physically safe, because our brains can think our survival is tied to the acceptance or rejection of our identity. Like if you spend a bunch of time and effort preparing for a job interview and crafting a resume of all the work that you've done, and then you don't get the job or even hear back, then it feels like a direct rejection of you. The truth is that's very often not the case, but it's so hard not to take things personally when we're in the thick of our feelings. Let me take you through my journey as an actor, where my face is literally part of what I'm putting out there, because I found out that rejection is more about fit than worth. So as an actor, we have to do auditions, usually a lot of them, to even get a chance to get a job. I'm the weirdo that basically has tracked almost all of my auditions on a bunch of spreadsheets, and they total up to be more than 800. And auditions can be so exciting too. I've gotten some for roles that I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna change my life, or at the very least my career. And I prepare for it, and then I imagine myself playing it. And then I start thinking about maybe what my Oscar speech will be in a few years. And then I do the audition or send in the tape, and then nothing. I've definitely gone into funks for weeks after auditions like that, feeling like I'm worthless and I'm never gonna have a career. I mean, I still do that sometimes. But something I learned to help me get through that is to process my emotions. That means sitting with them, acknowledging them, and letting them run their course. Another strategy is to give myself some self-compassion, talking to myself as like a Ted Lasso style coach. Because as an actor, when it's your face, your body, your voice that ends up not getting the part, it can feel really personal. But think about it. If I took every one of these 800 plus auditions personally as a personal rejection of like who I am, and then had to process every single one of them, I feel like that would just take too much time and I would go insane. So what's really helped me is to actually reframe things, which just means looking at things from a different perspective. Because the thing is, there are so many reasons an actor might not get a role. I made a different video that goes into more detail about this, but as someone that's also done some casting myself, an actor could lose a role because they might be too tall and the lead of the project is supposed to look super intimidating and they don't against someone taller than them. Or it could be something as ridiculous as looking like a producer's ex and just they don't want to hire you. Or they could just not be famous enough to pull in an audience. Whatever the reason, it helped me come to the conclusion that not getting a part is more about not being the right fit. I reframed it so that anytime I didn't get a role, which is most of the time, I didn't take it personally and make it feel like a life or death situation. So then after reframing it, all it means is I have to sit and wait until the right role comes for me, right? Not quite, because that means I'm just waiting for someone else's decision. There's a lot of things I do have control over in my own life that can help improve my chances or just improve myself as a person. I can take classes to improve my acting, I can meet people to collaborate with, I can work on my physical and mental health, I can produce my own work. There's so many things I can do that I have control over, but it'd be so difficult to see if I'm in tunnel vision mode, in fight or flight mode, because I feel like I've been personally rejected. Now, I know it's very possible that you yourself are not an actor at all, but rejection happens in every part of life. So let me give you some steps that you can apply today. And to use an example, let's go with the most extreme example of getting rejected directly. Let's say you ask someone out on a date and they say no. What do you do? Step 1, Acknowledge and process your emotions. It's normal to feel hurt. It sucks and it probably doesn't feel good, and that's okay. And the best thing we can do is acknowledge our feelings and let them run their course. Suppressing them or pushing them away or blaming other people might temporarily make us feel better, but you're technically just sweeping them under a rug, and that's just gonna sit there and fester. I mentioned before self-compassion, and that's a very helpful tool. Something you could say to yourself is, of course this hurts, but it doesn't define me. Or, one person's decision does not determine my worth. Self-love never hurts. Other options include journaling, or talking it out with supportive friends, or seeking professional help, especially if it gets really overwhelming. Once we're out of fight or flight mode, our emotions are regulated, they're feeling neutral, even positive, then we can move on to step 2, reframe the rejection. This is when we could step back and look at the rejection from a different perspective. We could ask ourselves, was this really a rejection about me, or was it just not the right fit? Let's go back to that dating example. You ask someone out and they say no, but it could have nothing to do with you. Maybe they're not ready for a relationship. Maybe they're already in a relationship. Or maybe you don't align with their preferences, and that's completely out of your control. Maybe it is something on your side, but you don't have to see it as an entire reflection of your identity. Maybe it's just something you did. Maybe you forgot to drink water and your breath is a little bit stinky. Is that a reflection on your entire personality and identity? I don't think so. Maybe it had something to do with your approach, but just because you messed up a little in a social interaction, does that mean you're a failure as a human being? No. The whole point of this step is to really zoom out a bit so you can see things a bit more objectively, so it's not all about you and taking it personally. Maybe it's something that is completely out of your control and you can move on. Maybe it is something that is in your control and you can work on it, but we'll get to that in a bit. Another perspective I want to offer is that rejections can lead to other opportunities. I literally know someone, and I probably can't share too many details, but they literally filmed a pilot for a TV show that did not get picked up. But then like a month or two later, they get a call to be the showrunner of an even bigger show that they wouldn't have been able to done had that first show been filming. So sometimes you just never know with stuff like that. So does reframing mean we can move on with our lives because we're actually perfect beings and all rejections are just not the right fit? No. Remember how I mentioned stuff you can work on? Well, step 3 is focus on what you can control and grow. In the end, the only thing we can control is ourselves, whether it's our reactions or something we might want to improve. My personal philosophy is that we should always be striving to grow and learn. Maybe that makes me a weirdo, but why else do we have these big brains if we're not going to use them, you know? I will say I think it's better to come from a place of just wanting to grow and improve in general instead of in response to someone else's rejection. I don't think it's a bad motivator, but if you make your entire personality just a reaction to someone else, do you actually have a personality? Let's go back to that dating example. You ask someone out, they say no. It hurts, it sucks. You process those emotions and then you reframe, and now what can you control? Just ourselves, right? So one example could be, oh, they said no, it's not the right fit. Let's find someone where we're both the right fit for each other. Another example could be, I ask someone out, they say no, cool, that's fine, but then maybe there are things I can improve about myself that I do have control over, like social skills, personal hygiene, emotional awareness, physical fitness, fashion sense. But again, I think these things have to come from a place of truly wanting to grow as opposed to a reactionary response. And that's why the previous steps are so important, because with emotional processing, you could step back and not have it feel so personal and get out of fight or flight mode. And then step 2 helps you look at things from a sort of hyperlogical perspective so that you can see, oh, is this something I actually need to improve on? Or is this just a kind of outlier of a data point? And is this something that I can kind of just ignore? Then we can move on to step 4, repeat. Here's the thing, our brains are naturally wired to want to keep us safe in the ways it thinks is safe, which usually means going back to old patterns. I've definitely had times in the past where like I learn a new skill and I practice it a few times, but then I find myself falling back to my old patterns and getting really frustrated about that. And this is normal. Our brains are not an on and off switch. In fact, there's new research that showed that it actually takes up to like 2 months to form a new habit and almost a year to actually let it settle in. So give yourself some grace and don't be afraid to repeat. Just remember to keep showing up, keep learning, and keep growing. And you'll find that right fit eventually, because you are already enough and the opportunities are out there. Now, if you want to see a way I've reframed my own rejections, you can check out this video here I made about 10 big roles I auditioned for but didn't get.